Hello, welcome everybody. It's where we're up to now, episode 6 of the Adapt podcast. Purpose of this podcast is just to hear the great stories of small and medium business owners and leaders and the businesses they're building, some of the epic fails they've had, some of the creative ways they're solving their challenges and keeping a focus on a people and culture at the core of everything. Super pumped to chat to you guys today. We've got Tania and Hamish from Mechanical Rock. How you going?
Good.
Awesome. Going awesome. Don't be nervous.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, we're very happy to be here.
Tania, you pretty much run the show here, but what would you say is your role at Mechanical Rock?
I think it's more I'm kind of like in training to run the show. Hamish is still very much hands-on. But my role is I'm the value stream lead for the consulting practice, which is the currently largest part of the business, which is professional services and software development. And I do a bit of consulting that comes with that as well.
Awesome. And Hamish, founder, lead donk at Mechanical Rock.
Absolutely.
Tell me a bit about the business and how it started.
Oh, how did it start? Well, so Mechanical Rock, we are a product and data platform consultancy. So we build product and data platforms for our customers. It started, well, I guess it started probably way back when I was in the UK. So I ran a company there, which with 3 other guys, and we built that up to a reasonable size. And then I decided to come back to home and come back to Australia. So I forgot what the sun looked like. And then I came back to Australia and I was sitting here by myself and I started up Magentis Australia, which soon after became Mechanical Rock. So just, that's the evolution of it.
That was about 8 years ago?
End of 2014 is when I came back to Australia. And 2017 is when we became Mechanical Rock.
Okay.
So our paths kind of diverged from the UK company.
Yep.
And we became our own thing. So
awesome.
Same company, just different name.
And let's talk about the name. Where did that come from?
The name was, well, when we split from Magentis, we needed to come up with a new name. And there were various reasons why we split, but mainly Magentis ended up being sold to a Japanese consulting firm, and they weren't that interested in the Australian entity, and so we needed a new name and brand. And there were about 6 or 7 of us at the time in Australia, and we needed a new name, so we came up with a spreadsheet. We put all the names on the spreadsheet, and I didn't really like any of them. And then one day my daughter turned to me and said, "Why don't you just call it Mechanical Rock?" I was like, "That's an absolutely stupid name. Why would we do that?" And then I kind of pondered over it for about a week and I was like, actually, that's quite a good name. I added it to the list and everyone voted and it came out equal top with another name. And so I just called dibs.
Daughter got the swing vote.
Yeah, so she was 9 at the time and now she still reminds me that it's her company. Which I guess if she knocks me over then...
So that's a great way to pick a name.
Yeah,
I often get asked about company name and brand. As you just start out, and my opinion is it matters a lot less than what you think it does. And you just start something new, and you build the importance around that name, depending on what you deliver consistently.
Yeah, I think everyone has a role to play in building what that name means, and I like the fact that it's a bit abstract because you can make meaning out of nothing really, and so everyone feels or relates to it a bit differently.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to spend time on the name and the brand and the business a bit more and you guys, but I always want to give the listeners a chance to get to know the humans that we're talking about. And so what I want to know from each of you is a favorite indulgence and one of your favorite life hacks right now. Tania, we'll start with you.
Well, my favorite indulgence is probably like any time to myself. So all time with my husband. We've had a busy life with kids. So yeah, a glass of wine just on my own in a corner or with my husband, also good. But my life hack is podcasts. I think we're in a profession that is continuous learning is essential, and busy time at work, busy time with the family means I don't have a lot of time to sit down and read. But I'll always have my headphones in my ears listening to a podcast, and I'll be podcast for entertainment, podcast for learning, and I probably just listen to hours and hours of it. And the nice thing about earbuds these days is you can put them in, cover your hair, and your kids don't know that you're actually not listening to them. So that's podcasts are my life hack.
Parenting pro tip as well. Any favorite podcasts?
Well, it's kind of like choosing between my kids. Obviously, there's this great Adapt podcast that I'm a big, huge fan of. Long time listener, first time caller. But what's the New York Times Kevin Roose one? I can never remember names.
I like listening to podcasts. Except this one.
Yeah, that's good.
We'll find it. I like put it in the show notes.
I like Pivot. So kind of intersection of tech and business.
Yep.
Those are kind of what the trends are, although everything's a little bit too AI heavy. And then New York Times Daily, those kind of things. So just kind of news. I quite like conversational podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm quite excited about this because it's the first time that I've seen you. Oh, you had the first one. You had 3 of you on there, but when you can have kind of a bit of banter and you kind of get to know the personalities of the hosts more than just information.
Yep.
So almost every single one of my podcasts is like multiple people on it.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
Group conversation.
Yeah, I like that. I like the conversation.
Long film. Do you like long form or do you like the short, punchy style?
Just because of my lifestyle, 30 minutes to 45 is my sweet spot.
Yeah.
You think if it goes over an hour, I'm like, I ain't got that.
I would have picked you for a Joe Rogan person.
Yeah, well, I was, but then, he's just gone a little bit too crazy. I really do fall smack bang in the middle of the Joe Rogan demographic. Absolutely. You pick me there. Yeah.
Moving on to Hamish. Favorite indulgence and favorite life hack right now.
Favorite indulgence is probably going for a surf.
Yeah.
I do.
Any spots that you're prepared to share? Because I know.
Unfortunately, we live in Perth, so it's not a huge range around here. So mainly it's Trig with 1,000 other people. I have been known. I do keep my boards in the car. I have been known to nick off for an hour or two during the day. Sometimes I don't tell anyone, so no one will know.
Yeah.
But yes, it does keep me sane.
Awesome.
And now my daughter is getting quite into it as well. So
Something to do with her as well.
yeah, so I have 2 daughters, but the eldest one is a bit more into it at the moment. So
And how old are they?
they are, I should know this, they are 15 and 12. So so much so she sent me pictures of a new board she wants yesterday. So
Birthday coming up, or is this early notice for Christmas, Dad?
just get me this board, Dad. So
Okay.
that's probably my one indulgence. I do like to, I don't get out often enough, but
Yeah.
once a week, maybe once a fortnight.
Awesome. Bit of peace for the soul.
Yes, absolutely.
It's something about, and I'm a shite surfer. I'll just go out and say I'm terrible at it. But the few times that I've gone to mess it up, there's something about sitting there on that board waiting for the next wave, and there might be other people, but you're all kind of quiet together.
Yeah,
And-
there's no distractions, no phones, no technology, no people, but there you can always have a chat if you want.
Yeah.
So it's actually, and it's refreshing. It feels like a giant cleanse.
Awesome. Favorite life hack?
This is really boring. My favorite life hack is probably a 0 inbox. And I am obsessed with that. And that is the only way I find or have found that I can manage a busy life. So obviously I have 2 kids. They're quite active. I have a fairly active wife. And I also run a business, which is, keeps me reasonably busy, I guess. And if I didn't have that way of managing my life, then I would probably explode.
Yeah. And you guys are Google people, and do you use Inbox Zero, or you just apply the discipline?
I apply the discipline.
Yep.
And so anything in my inbox is stuff that needs to be actioned. And if it's not down to 0 by the evening, then I generally have an embolism.
Yeah.
But, there might be 1 or 2 things, which is like paying BAS.
Yeah.
So
I think every owner loves to do it.
payroll tax I leave to the very last.
We're going to get to that.
The last hour, and then I write some obscene message on the bank.
Hate mail.
Yeah,
to the
exactly.
APO,
Yeah.
They're killing him.
I could employ another 3 people for this.
Definitely a passion that we share, and also Bill, obviously. All right, cool. That's good. I want to first congratulate you guys on Latency conference that's just been last week. Woohoo! Gutted I couldn't make it in the end, but the adapt team was there, and feedback was awesome, and the bit of socials that I've seen look great. But how do you feel it went?
Well, I'm really happy with it. I see it was. I thought it was excellent. Feedback from the community has been awesome. It had a great vibe. The talks were great. The kind of community spirit was awesome. And it's such a relief that it's done. It was really good. I'm thrilled with it.
And
it was one of our best ones.
You guys started it in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
That was our first. Yeah,
and skipped a year or two.
Just one.
Just one. Yeah. So it's been 7 now.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. That's how we met.
So what?
That's creepy.
I was introduced to Tania to be on the committee.
Yeah,
when she was still at Bank West, and then for some reason she wanted to join Mechanical Rock after that. So
definitely the name.
If you can't beat him, join him.
Exactly.
What's the why behind Latency? Because you guys, it's a big deal for you guys, and you're the engine that makes that happen. Why?
Yeah, I think for me, it's always been about community. So when I first came back to Perth, this is not a joke, I was walking down St George's Terrace and I actually saw tumbleweeds flying down the terrace with me. There was no one on the terrace, and it felt like a void of not just people, but also a technical void.
Yeah.
And at the time, there was one other conference on the scene of any note, really, which was DDD, and that was about 50 people. And I thought the community could probably do a bit better. And I think, coming from London, which was a fairly vibrant tech scene at the time, especially around the kind of east end of London, Hoxton, those places, there was quite a bit going on. So I kind of wanted to instill that vibe to some degree, but also upskill the community. Like, again, I was doing and using technical practices that probably weren't a thing back then. And I felt like if we could just get a bit of enthusiasm for those types of things, such as cloud technologies, then it would be good for the industry. Not necessarily good for Mechanical Rock, but good for the industry. So it was really a community-focused event. And I think we've been relatively successful, growing from probably 80 people in a tin shed in East Perth up to about 400, 500 people every year, which is really good to see.
Yep.
Had a few struggles this year.
I was going to ask you, I know that there were some challenges leading up. Is that something you can talk about?
Well, generally we've had quite good sponsorship. We've had the cloud providers get on board. We've had some big tech companies get on board year on year. This year, it was crickets. We really didn't have anyone involved from the big tech community. So any of the cloud providers, any of the larger software vendors. We had some smaller consultancies from Perth that joined, and then Curtin actually came on board as a platinum sponsor and really saved the conference, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
So they were the only platinum sponsors. There were no gold sponsors. So really it was and we don't publicize the fact that it's a Mechanical Rock event, but we fund it. And we put a lot of the organization effort in. Whilst we do have a committee that is from the wider community, if it's not a success, it comes out of our pocket.
Okay.
So, that we did have to make some big calls. One of those calls was to reduce it to a one-day event, which halved the cost.
Yeah.
Really. So yeah, but I'm glad it went ahead. It was quite stressful in the lead up to it. I have one less kidney now, which is fine. I only need one. I still need my liver though.
Yeah. Well, take a second then to at least recognise and celebrate Curtin for stepping up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very thankful to Kate.
Great organisation in our town and very behind the innovation scene in WA, but for them to step up and support what I think is the best conference for this discipline.
Thank you.
Around. So
I appreciate your support as well, sending your tech team. And, I noticed you didn't come. I was very upset about that, but I
was also very upset.
Way through writing a letter, don't worry. Really great to see your team and Min on stage as well was brilliant.
I heard he did a great job. Yeah. Okay, so a couple of things. It's a massive commitment and undertaking for a small and medium business like yourself to, let's call it small, to back a conference like that. The time and the logistics and the effort you've got to put into it, but also the cash. And cash is tough for any small business. Mm-hmm. Why does it matter so much to you?
Well, I think it's summed up nicely in that kind of phrase, a rising tide lifts all ships. And if we can influence the community to get better, everyone benefits as a result. Not just us as Mechanical Rock, but also other consultancies, other tech companies who are looking to build a product and take it to market. I think it can only benefit them. Even if it's just a conversation in a hallway, even if it's just someone that can hire someone, find the right person for their organisation. I think that's where the interesting things happen. It's not generally in someone getting up and talking. It's in the corridors. Yeah. It's out whilst you're having lunch. It's meeting that connection. It's finding a co-founder. It's, that type of thing, which can be really powerful.
Yeah.
It's a core part of our vision as well at Mechanical Rock is about building a tech-driven economy, having a lead role in helping to drive that, an outside influence, and doing that through uplifting the community and kind of raising the expectation on the tech community here in WA. And Latency is a huge part of that.
It feels like we're constantly battling with this, the larger industry in WA specifically, thinking that technology is a commodity and that they can just outsource it to the lowest bidder.
Yeah.
And for me, that is the wrong way to think about it because it's actually part of your value stream. It's actually part of your business. You will find most businesses these days, if they didn't have technology, they would shut down.
Yep.
So it's a core part. And people don't recognize that. They think, we'll just outsource it to unknown software vendor in India and it will work fine. But if you're waiting 50 days for a port to be opened on a particular machine so you can do some work, that's not a great thing for your business.
Yeah.
You're waiting for something to happen. You need to value that, and I think you need to put that front and center. Obviously, we're biased because we're in technology.
Yeah.
But I think, especially for SMEs in Perth and maybe outside of the two major cities in Australia, it can be a real challenge battling with that mindset.
There's two things that I want to raise. First thing, it's easy to say you've got a vision and tell the world you've got a vision, but sometimes to realize a vision, the rubber's got to hit the road and something needs to get done. And you guys have just demonstrated a genuine commitment to a vision because you've gone in and did what you had to do to get this conference to try and continue. And it was about more than just you guys. If it was just about Mech Rock making a buck, you wouldn't have done a conference because it wouldn't have cost you what it did. So I guess I want to commend you for not just saying that you've got a vision and communicating this vision, but actually putting the effort behind it. That's a bit rare out there. And then the other thing is, what's the message that we can get out, maybe to listeners to the podcast or in general, that can garner some better support for next year's conference?
I mean, the smallest amount of support we can have is just attending. Like, that's what we really want, is people attending the conference. You know, if we can get 500 people attending our conference, that is the be all and end all. That's really what we want. And that, and if, you know, people attend, then we've got some revenue from ticket sales to, I wouldn't say cover costs, but, you know, go some way towards covering costs.
Yep.
The next step is, well, you can get involved as a volunteer or a committee member, but ideally what we'd like is, you know, some more kind of sponsorship in terms of corporates getting involved. Maybe not corporates, but just smaller business. Like, we had some great SMEs involved in sponsoring. So Interviews, they sponsored the Sundowner, so the drinks, last year, and they came back this year. And without that sponsorship as well, it wouldn't have been possible to run the conference.
Yeah.
You know, it was, so that type of stuff is invaluable for us. And that's really that's the type of sponsorship we want, because they're an SME, they're in technology. They know exactly what the industry is doing, and they understand the challenges. You know, it's great to have large corporates come on board, but that's not necessarily what helps the community.
Yeah.
You know, it's a challenge there. I'd like to see WA born and bred companies get involved.
Yeah.
But I'm just, you know, I am a WA boy, and I'd like to see people from WA do well.
What is really clear is it's not about having a conference that's got a lot of big names behind it and it makes money. It's genuinely about how do we create an event where people who are in this space, or people who rely on this space of technology, can come together, meet each other, do things together, and improve the technology landscape in general for Western Australia.
If it was about making money, we wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, the amount of time we put into organising this thing, sometimes we make a profit on paper, but we never take into account the labour that we actually spend. And we're spending 6 months organising a conference, you know, a good 6 months. So it's...
Well, you guys, again, you just need to be applauded for that persistence. It's 7 years. To have a legacy of 7 years 7 conferences over 8 years, that's remarkable. And I hope there's another 70 or more. We're not going to be here anymore, but hopefully the conference keeps going. I want to talk to you guys about the brand, the MECROC brand. Probably start with you, Tania. For me...
do we have one?
For me, the MECROC brand is more than just another well-recognized brand. That's my humble opinion. I want to know what the MECROC brand stands for, what it means to you, what you want it to do for your business and for the community.
First of all, I think we have an outsized influence in our community given our size. As a small business.
How many people in the business?
32.
32.
And our name is much more pervasive. So our brand is much more well known. And I think that's because we are so noisy, dare I say opinionated in the community. But I think that's part of our brand, is this setting a high expectation for excellence in technology, and specifically in software craftsmanship. There's too much sloppy work that gets done that makes it hard for everything. Corners cut, software that isn't built resiliently, software that isn't built to take advantage of the kind of cloud technology that's available. And we really want to kind of shift that paradigm to kind of expect more and demand more. So that sometimes means that we've got to kind of call things out, really share our opinions, have opinions, and be part of the conversation. And that kind of setting it out there, we're not afraid to put our stake out and have an opinion and get people talking. I think that's really helped our brand. And that's really important to me. And so it's a kind of not uncompromising, but at high expectations in terms of people doing good work in software.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you hold a really high standard internally, and you're also trying to hold stakeholders, other operators, the community in general, at a high standard to deliver excellence in
Absolutely.
software and technology.
Absolutely. And with our clients, kind of showing our clients the art of the possible, kind of helping them to kind of see what great can look like for them and what are the steps that they need to take to get there. And that's really, really important to us. So, and that brand is a hard one to keep good because it doesn't take too many corners that you cut to water that down.
Yeah.
And so we really need to work hard to kind of really stay on that, on the front foot in terms of quality and high quality delivery in the work that we do.
I know you guys pride yourselves on excellence in software development, but what does that mean?
No. I mean, for us, it kind of comes down to quality. So how is software built? Is it testable? Is it resilient? Is it scalable? Is it automated? How do you build something that can be maintained and that is kind of a high quality? But also, how are you building software so you're actually solving the right problem?
Yeah.
There's so many times that we'll start a conversation with a client and they'll be like, I want this thing. And after conversations and work and time, it's actually the problem they're trying to solve is something different. And it's kind of finding the middle ground between building the right thing and building it the right way, which is really the sweet spot that we are constantly striving to operate in. And that's hard. And we kind of learning more and more about that every day.
How do you, a business that is not strong with technology or their understanding of software and technology, how do you help them identify what they need and then understand the value of doing it well first time around?
Yeah, that's a constant issue for us, because if you haven't experienced the wrong thing or you haven't been on the other side of it, then you don't necessarily know what good looks like and why things should happen the way they happen. So, for example, if someone tells you you should do all the right things in terms of security, well, you don't actually know the impact of that until you've been on the other side of the fence and someone has taken your details and used your credit card. So you kind of so it's one of those things about explaining and educating and really going through why we're doing things over and over again. But it's also not being afraid to challenge. And I think that's one of the things where our industry tends to get it wrong. So what we see is the customer will say, this is what I want. And someone will come along and say, okay, we'll do that for you. And generally that the customer is always right, but the customer may not know why they're asking for things. So what we tend to pride ourselves on is challenging the customer around saying, do you really want this? Do you really want it this way? There is another way. And sometimes that doesn't work for our customers because they don't like being challenged. That's generally not when we're not really a good fit with our customers. So we don't always get it right.
Yeah.
But, we keep trying.
Something I want to go and unpack with you as we're still talking about Mechanical Rock as a brand, as a different way of showing businesses excellence in this discipline. Every now and then I see this DonkOps popping up. Wondering if we can figure out what's going on there.
That's a great question. I'm not sure I have a good answer for you, to be honest. I think it stems from the fact that way back when we had a great engineer who worked for us called Will Sear, and we were talking about DevOps and this, which is the intersection between building great software products and operating software products. It's called DevOps, and Will flippantly said that it's when it comes to you, Hamish, it's not DevOps, it's DonkOps or something like that. So I've just kind of picked that up and run with it. So because I thought it was an apt description of myself, because I have no idea what I'm doing most of the time. So that's really where it comes from.
I think it kind of talks to one of our, it literally is one of our values, which is not taking ourselves too seriously. And that kind of being a bit irreverent and a bit opinionated and noisy. Like if we if we started to conform too badly, I think we'd just become vanilla like a lot of the other kind of vendors in town, or professional services firms. But we are kind of having the donk and having things be a little bit more, I don't know, not transgressive, but kind of like opinionated and agitating. That kind of keeps the conversation going, and we're happy to admit that we're wrong. But yeah, keeping it fun, because life's too short, and software development's hard. Yeah. What we do is really, really hard. The problems we solve for our customers are really, really hard. We don't get called in because someone's having a great day. And so you kind of roll with the punches with that. And so some of that is about, just having some fun with it.
And to be honest, that's why one of the reasons I created the company is because I want to have fun. I don't want to come to work every day and just be bored shitless. I actually want to have fun. And I do work hard, but I also want to have periods of my life where I'm actually not working at all. I'm just having a laugh. Yeah. And I think that's what it's all about. And like, that's what I want everyone at Mechanical Rock to feel as well. They work hard. Everyone here works hard. They're super talented individuals, but they have to be able to switch off and have a bunch of fun as well. Yeah. And, so that's really the goal is, it's a cliche now, but work hard, play hard, just want to have some fun as well. Life's too short. In episode 4, I chatted to Alex Dunmo, who is the co-founder of Ninja Software. Awesome, just a great conversation. He's a tremendous dude. But he was talking about what was really important to him was to build a company that he loved to work in, build a business and a team that he enjoyed to work in, and they felt like they really did that, which I liked. I liked that sentiment. I feel the same. So like you guys do too. What I love about the MechRock brand and how noisy you guys are is you're noisy about not accepting subpar. You're noisy about excellence, but you're also noisy about, and while we're pursuing excellence, we don't know everything and we're trying to learn constantly. I think that public humility is highly underrated, but it's something that you guys do, I think, well, and I connect with, and I think a lot of people connect with as well because they just feel like there's a realness to the people that are behind the MechRock machine. I want to talk, Hamish, specifically now around ownership, owning a small business, operating a small business, the complexities of that. Go. How long have we got? Where are the tissues? Send them over. The complexities of ownership. Where do you start? I think no one gets into owning a business or, starting a business with their eyes really wide open to what they're really doing. So ownership has all these connotations in public, but in reality, it's probably one of the hardest things. Like literally yesterday, our internet was down and I'm sitting out there next to the toilets for an hour trying to fix our internet. And that's the reality. Actually, the reality is even worse. You think you're going to lose your house in 2 months or 3 months. It's this existential kind of feeling that you have. And, you can... Sometimes you might not sleep for months at a time or weeks at a time because you've got some thought, or you're so wrapped up in one of your employees' problems that you can't sleep at night. It's not pretty. And I guess ownership for me is like you tend to really understand the business so intimately, not by design, but because you just do so much of the different things. You're doing the bank transfers, you're doing the hiring, you're doing the firing, you're, fixing the internet, you're doing some of the consulting, it's
listening to the unhappy customer.
Absolutely, yeah, because the buck stops here, right? So you're the one that goes in to have that conversation when the customer's happy or unhappy. So it's an emotional roller coaster of ups and downs, usually more downs than ups, to be honest. And even so much as, in the early days of Mechanical Rock, when people would leave, and people leave for lots of different reasons. I might go into a funk for 2 months just because of that. And it might be that they're moving.
How personally do you take it when somebody leaves?
Hugely personally. I've still got a chip on my shoulder.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know who you are. I guess over time you become a little bit more able to deal with it. And it's life, I guess, but it's not something that. But on the flip side, if you didn't care, you wouldn't have the company that you have. You know, it would just be a vanilla, whatever it is. Like, that's kind of part of it. So I can't take that away from me. I can't do that, but you can get better at dealing with it.
Yep. And for a period of time, there was some co-ownership, and with that comes relationship complexity and vision alignment complexity. What's been your experience in that phase of the journey? Because there's something that, and I ask you this because there's a lot of owners out there who either are in co-ownership right now, and the owners are trying to figure out, is that the right thing for everybody?
Yeah.
Or they're thinking about bringing in another owner. And I just think to learn from other owners that's been there already, what are things to keep in mind, or what are some of the experiences associated to that?
Yeah, look, it's a complex topic, and I'm sure people like Bill are a lot better at talking about this stuff than I am. But from my experience, and if I knew what I knew now, I would do it very differently. So I've run 2 businesses now, and I would be very clear about your vision alignment, both internal and external, before you go into any kind of shared ownership structure. And the other side of that is I would make sure there's skin in the game. So I would never advise gifting any kind of ownership, because it doesn't breed the type of behavior that you would expect. And so, I found myself in a situation where I was unhappy because I wasn't getting the type of, I guess, behavior that I wanted from, my fellow owners, if you want to call them that.
Yeah, so, along the journey.
Yeah. And that's not necessarily their fault. It's more the fact that I went into it.
You had expectations, maybe that you didn't communicate with enough detail.
Yeah, and that's
something
a common problem of mine. I assume that people have the same kind of knowledge.
Well, they want the same thing you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And that's more a reflection on me than anyone else, right? So, and I've done the same with Tania. I've kind of assumed that she knows exactly what's going on in this type of the business when she's actually never done those things. So expecting her to be able to pick up and do things is almost impossible. So it's my failing, it's not hers. And I think Bill was talking about it a couple of weeks ago. There's a very big difference between a handball and a handover. So,
right.
And effectively what I generally do is a handball. I'm like, it's yours now. See you later.
He talks about handover and delegation. And when he did this talk, he talked about stepping out and handing over. And stepping out means you're leaning out, and hand over means you're leaning in first and investing first before you can. We've got a great little clip, which I'll share in the show notes as well, of him actually talking about that particular point. I'm going to take you to leadership in a second, but I just want to come back to vision one last time, and use the 2 key lessons that you had that you shared is, first, make sure that you and any potential owners are absolutely aligned on the vision, internally and externally. And also that those who embark on ownership have got skin in the game. In layman's terms, how would you explain this alignment on vision to others who maybe never really explored that topic before?
alignment on vision, I guess for me, there's two parts of it, which is one is internal, which is what do I want? What do I want to get out of this? How do I want to operate in terms of, well, do I want free time? Do I want to spend time with my family? Is that the vision that I want to see out of the back of this if the company is successful, or if it gives me that time, or how I want to operate in that business. And the external vision, I guess, is what you would, I wouldn't say sell, but what you talk about to your stakeholders, which could be your partners, could be your employees, these types of things. So where are we going as a business? What do we want to achieve? And for me, that vision can change along the way, but there's always got to be a North Star.
Yeah.
And you've always got to have that kind of, well, where are we going? And I think at some point, at Mechanical Rock, we have been guilty about not relaying that enough. For me, like talking about values and vision, I kind of feel like I get a bit uncomfortable, and sometimes I feel like I want to vomit a bit, if I'm talking about the same thing over and over again, because it becomes something that you devalue.
Do you think so?
Well, I've walked into startup places and whatever else, and on the wall it's like hustle and all that shit, and it fucking winds me up. Because it's all just cliches, and the more you talk about things like that, the more it becomes, or it's at risk of becoming a cliche. And I don't want Mechanical Rock and our vision and where we're going to become a cliche. I want it that people actually believe it, which is why we don't talk about our values and our vision externally so much. We talk about it internally at Mechanical Rock. So this is where we're going. This is why we're doing it. And this is these are the values. Again, values can be misused. If you walk down the terrace and you go to one of these big mining companies and you see their values and you say, well, we value the environment, at the same time they're digging shit up out of the ground and they're leaving it a bloody mess. Well, I find that hard to believe. For me, there's some kind of mismatch there. So I believe that you have to live it first, and you have to breathe it, and you have to demonstrate it, and then you can talk about it.
Okay. For you, then, a vision or a direction for the business and the values or the behaviors that you want to see in the business has a lot more to do with internal communication, living those values, acting on those behaviors, having the outcome in the world that you want to see, and let that outcome speak for you rather than you touting to the world what your beliefs are.
That's the way I see it.
Yep.
I don't always necessarily think that that's the way people operate, but that's the way we tend to operate, which is we have a vision, we're trying to achieve that vision, and we let the rest kind of speak for itself. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's true. You do tend to shy away from wanting to kind of cringe words, and we've got a bunch of corporate refugees that work here. We don't want them falling into those patterns. But I think you've also found that, especially with the team, we do have to talk about it more than you feel comfortable with. Like, people don't internalize it unless they hear it a lot. And I think that's we're still trying to find that balance in terms of how much do we talk about it without cheapening it and making it feel cliched. And it's definitely more than is your instinct, probably.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't feel comfortable talking about our vision every month with our internal all hands, for example. This, reiterating it over and over again, because again, I believe it kind of cheapens the message. But I believe if you live those and you're demonstrating progress on that vision, then it helps. But yeah.
So how then do you make sure your people are aligned and rallying behind the direction that you've set, and they are committed to behaving according to these behavior principles or the values that you've set?
It's a good question. I think hiring is obviously the start of that process. So making sure that we have the right people on the journey, people that align to as much as we can to the behaviors that we aspire to, and people that want to join that journey in search of that vision or in search of achieving that vision. So we are very careful with hiring in the sense that we don't generally advertise for people. We wait for people to come to us. They're like, oh, I heard Mechanical Rock is a great place to work. Can I come and work here? So it's more of an inbound thing than an outbound thing. And we do that by design because we want people to find a way to work at Mechanical Rock. We don't want
people to want to be here.
They've already bought into what it is that you are about. Before even having a conversation about, is there a place for me?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we don't have a careers page. We don't have anywhere where people can submit a CV. First thing they do is track us down, find us by hook or crook. So generally that means people are stalking me on LinkedIn or Tania on LinkedIn, and we have a coffee. Right. And so that's that first step in our cultural kind of evaluation is this the right fit?
Yeah.
Are they the right type of person to join a company which is as weird and fucked up as Mechanical Rock? In the sense that it's not a normal company in the sense of a hierarchy, and we consult to businesses, but we also do stuff internally as well. So it's
You're sorry, Tania, you go.
Also, I think we've got quite a robust cultural system as well. So once people are in, with cultural leadership model, that we will have regular catch-ups with the kind of someone who's not day-to-day kind of work to do day-to-day, or we don't really have any line manager. We don't have line managers here, but no one that's in a kind of position of power, but more someone who's a kind of a more senior person in the business or an elder in the business, using the word elder here because you're looking at them. But the other, we've got a cultural leadership team who can then meet with people and kind of talk about their experience of being here, help dialing up. We're really good at gratitude. We're really good at calling out great behaviors and great shout outs and living the values. We probably haven't been so great in terms of kind of constructive feedback when things haven't been, because we're never going to do the annual reviews. That's saving it all to the end of the year and doing that. That's just not us. It's against every piece of our DNA. But the trick is kind of, hey, in the moment, kind of going, hey, that wasn't great, or next time, how about we try it this way? I think that's a habit that we've probably only muscle that we've got better at in the last year or year and a bit, out of necessity. And I think that's kind of part of kind of keeping that culture alive, is not walking past stuff that isn't right. But mostly, I think it's the leading by example. I think that's the best way to show the culture is, nobody works harder than him. And the fact that he's got the love and passion for the business and the care for the clients and the care for the people, that's really infectious.
Yeah.
And I think if you've got an owner in a business who's officially like an owner leader in this case, who's not in it, like doesn't kind of, or has a distance between the team and the clients, I don't know how they manage that. Like I can't see how that model can be as successful as what we have with him, who's kind of just living and breathing it, fixing the Wi-Fi and being really hands-on. But it kind of makes us feel like he really
gives a shit.
Yeah, and I think one of our unofficial values is giving a shit. Like you just got to care because it's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard stuff that we do, and the work's hard. Like if you got to give a shit, you got to want to be here.
Yeah,
you got to want to be curious about software. You got to want to learn about it. It's not a 9-to-5 job. Like and so it has to be an interest.
Yeah.
And so trying to find that's why the opt-in model for recruitment is so important to us, because people kind of like look at those, who's this crazy bunch who seem to be always publishing stuff and working hard and doing cool stuff. How do I give you some of that? Yeah.
You guys are just creating a perfect segue for me into where I want to go. And I just want to come back to ownership one last time, Hamish. Earlier, you spoke about, sometimes I just want to be able to go jump in a car and go surf for 2 hours or spend more time with my family, which means that you have a desire to have a successful business, but it not be entirely dependent on you, because if it is, then you don't have that time. Now that requires you to build other leaders, especially people that can lead at a strategic level. Tell me what that's been like for you.
I'm not going to lie, it's been a challenge. And I think part of that has to do with the industry that we're in. A lot of software professionals are great software professionals, but they're not great leaders.
Great technicians.
Yeah, they're technical people. A lot of people get into tech because they don't have to talk to people. And that's actually wrong. As technologists, we actually need to talk to people to understand their problems and convert that into solutions. And that's where we're trying to get better at the type of people we hire. But that doesn't also necessarily mean that great software people make great leaders. So it can be a challenge. And I recognize that I'm part of the problem in this, in that, I've already talked about that. Just getting in and fixing a thing creates more problems than actually solving them, because I'm not getting other people to do that and putting the accountability on those. I'm taking the accountability for that and doing it myself.
So how do you stop yourself if you're a doer? Like if you're a move it out of the way, I'm going to fix this thing. How do you change that behavior to coach other people into lifting their skills so that they can start to lead?
Very badly is the answer for me. Like, as you'll realize, I have very limited skill, and I just will go and do something, and I don't have the patience to spend time with people or wait for something to happen. So I'd rather just do it myself. But I'm trying to get better at doing that, because I realize that without building some knowledge and some accountability within people and leadership, then I'll never be able to go surfing, at 2:00 on a Tuesday when the surf's up. So I realize that I have to invest in people. And I think for me, the way I'm doing it is, rather than just a handball to say, it's yours, I will spend time with you. I don't know what this mentoring thing actually means, but I'll definitely spend time with you at whatever time you need and be around you. And maybe through some form of osmosis, that people will learn to do the thing.
Tania, in the last couple of years, you've stepped up into strategic leadership at MacRock. And so you're on the other side of what we just talked about. Tell me what your experience has been like, and what has worked really well, what has been difficult.
I think my experience has been wonderful. I mean, it's been incredibly challenging, but really rewarding. And I think for me, it's definitely part of the hope I had when I joined Mechanical Rock, that I would get an opportunity like I have now. And it's been everything that I kind of hoped it would be, and a lot more. So it's been really good. It was kind of, it was difficult because we transitioned from a shared ownership model to Hamish having the ownership, and that kind of caused a lot of time of turbulence and change, and I switched roles in that time. And so in a way, it kind of, for me, a little bit, it's been a bit of deep end, which is kind of our philosophy with our team as well, which is hire great people, push them into the deep end, but just not deep enough that they can drown, and they kind of manage and cope. And I've got to points where I've definitely been in over my head, and he's pulled me out. And then there've been times where he's kind of just let me figure it out and make some bad mistakes myself and learn from them, and then we kind of laugh about it afterwards. That seems to be, kind of experiential learning's worked really well for us. Like he says, he's always available to talk, and we do, and more he gives me more things. I think it's kind of like a trust. The more and more you trust me to be able to deal with something is when you tend to leave those things alone.
I think it's more that I just put up with you better.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'll take it. Yeah.
We are very, very close to something that's key in effective handover. And that is, when you delegate to somebody, or what's very common practice in business is to tell somebody to take care of something, but you still retain decision rights. To hand over well, you have to give somebody an accountability and the decision right over that accountability, and you can't come and just override that, because then you break the trust and you break the effectiveness of the handover, and you're still the one that's being dependent on. So what's been your experience as you're taking on more leadership accountability and then have to take on decision rights?
To be fair, I think he'd wish I'd made more decisions than I do. I think that's I think we're getting better, but...
Yeah, look, I've definitely seen a journey in you sitting in our strategic or strategy sessions or whatever, which is, can I make this decision to I'm going to make this decision? And it's definitely a lot less asking permission.
Yeah.
I definitely, for the first year, you were not comfortable making any decisions without running it through me several times.
Yeah. I think it's a combination of the culture being very Hamish, this being Hamish, the business, and my hesitancy and, inability to feel like I kind of belonged in the role. I'm definitely a lot over that now. I kind of look at him and really, he is flying by the seat of his pants. So I can absolutely do this.
Flat out winging it.
Yeah, flat out winging it. And so it's kind of like I wish it hadn't taken me that long to get there. I wish it hadn't taken me a full year of kind of doing the job to kind of have that courage and that confidence in myself. But that's everyone's journey.
You can't underestimate how difficult it is to take on leadership and decision rights in somebody else's business whose house is on the line.
That's right.
That's the difficulty of stepping into strategic leadership in a small business when you're not the owner, is you have to find the courage to take the decision rights and make the decisions, but it's not your house on the line. So what's that like?
Yeah. I really never appreciated that whole owning a business thing until I stepped into this role, until I actually viscerally saw
what it does,
what he goes through, and how much it is sitting on him. Because if you're two decisions away and you don't know, theoretically, yes, in consulting we have a 3-month cliff, but when you're actually there's nobody else that's going to do this but you and him, and the team. But you're so close to that. If I don't go and have this meeting and get this business in, we're not going to have enough money to pay the salaries. We know our salaries are going to get paid. I know viscerally that I'm going to be taken care of because of the confidence that he's built in us. We just know it'd be okay. But that's going to come from somewhere, and he's going to be the one that hurts. So seeing that has been really confronting, and kind of, you have these ideas of think about being gifted ownership in a business and what that takes. And I completely see that. You have to live and die by business, you have to really, it has to hurt. You have to put some real skin in the game, and wanting and willingness to do that, I think, is a really tough, I admire. If the fact that he was completely unemployable, I don't know why he would ever have started his own business. What a thing to do. And
it was the only option, really.
Yeah, really. But what a gift to us.
Yes.
It's such a wonderful place to work. And the other thing I want to kind of call out in terms of this decision rights is that now that I've gained the confidence, the big thing that we're trying to do is have that spread more. And we've got, for as much as, we've got the microphone now, we've got such incredible leaders now in the business who are now going through that same change of can I just make this call? Is this for me to do? And we're starting to see them, hopefully faster than I think it's happening faster than with me, actually just starting to kind of just take the initiative, make calls, and that's kind of always been
But that is also about the journey we've been on with role clarity and making sure people are crystal clear about what their accountabilities are, and that they can make those decisions as well. And they don't have to keep coming to us to say, can I do this?
That's right.
Yeah.
Which has been a great thing, really.
Yeah.
Do getting role clarity right in a small business is not common practice, and can add real sophistication to that business if you nail it. Yeah. And you guys have been on an amazing journey already.
I don't think we've nailed it. I think we've got a lot of work to do. I think one of the constraints we have is you don't want to over clarify, because there's no team to do the jobs. Like the jobs, if something's going to get done, one of us 32 people have to do it. And if you over clarify a role, then you kind of paint the people who don't have that, into a corner of having to do all the things. And so you want to kind of create a role where you this is your sphere of influence and control. These are the things that you are responsible for driving in this business, and finding that, but without being over prescriptive, and find that balance. I think is a journey that we're on.
So it's more of a teach them to make really great decisions in service of the direction of the business.
Correct.
And in accordance with the behaviors that you want to see.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so an example would be I was out there yesterday or the day before trying to fix the internet, and one of our guys came up, sat next to me, and was trying to explain different networking and things as well. So, it's like that is the sort of behavior that we want, is people just pitching in and trying to
Solve the problem. They see there's a problem.
Exactly. They see there's lean in, dive in.
Yeah.
But I guess the way I've tried to, solve the is my house on the line and give Tania that kind of perspective is just I invite her around to my house, and now she can treat it as her house. So, she knows.
So if it's not there anymore, she
exactly.
can't go there.
Yeah. I've only done that once.
Tania, I want to, we'll probably wrap us up pretty soon, but I just want to explore the cultural work, the work that it takes to have a culture like yours, because it doesn't come by itself. Now, when I met you guys a couple of years ago, you already had a great culture, in my opinion. But I know since then you guys have gone even deeper into evolving and cultivating the culture that's here today. What's that experience been like? What are the things that you try to do to continually uphold a healthy culture at Mecroc?
So shameless plug for Adapt here, but one of the things that we kind of learned through our now 2-year journey with Adapt is that you've got to kind of systematize your culture. You've got to kind of make your culture repeatable. And so that doesn't just rely on people having to spend time with Hamish to understand what it is, but we actually kind of codify it in a certain way. So we do that through our cultural leadership system and regular career evaluations, which are an incredibly important tool for us here, which is every 6 months, we kind of have a really good structured conversation with the cultural leader and the team member about figuring out, recalibrating for themselves what's important for them in their life right now and for their career, and then how is their job right now at Mechanical Rock matching up to that, and then really talking about how do we bridge those gaps. And it leads to all kinds of pain. I know cultural evaluation season is not your favorite time, as he sits in the dark room with a beer, crying and reading about the way people are. But equally, it's kind of it kind of forces us to have some conversations, and that's really good.
So if it's so hard or not favorite, why do you do it? Why do it?
The quality of the conversations that come from it, like the things we learn. The problems exist. Like it's just about surfacing.
It's better that you know about it, so you can actually do something about it. And I think having that conversation or having that catalyst to start the conversation is really important. Without it, we wouldn't be able to do it. It would be too late.
Yeah.
To get a resignation letter. It's like, well, why didn't you say something? Well, because you were too busy. You're off seeing customers all the time, and I couldn't have that conversation.
So what you're talking about is creating the kind of culture and creating a space where people get to talk about what it is that they want when they're working here, and you get a chance to go, oh yeah, okay, cool, we can give you some of that, or crap, we can't give you that. Now what? Well, let's figure out a way together, rather than not having those conversations, not being aware of those things. And then the first time you realize something's amiss is when you have that resignation letter on your desk, and then it's too late to do anything about it a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the catalyst for me was I went away last year. Was it last year? Yeah. And I got 2 resignation letters while I was away on holiday. And that hurt. That really, really hurt. And, for whatever reason, whether they were the right reasons or the wrong reasons, that's something that I want to get away from. I want to be able to know that something's coming and have a more graceful exit for me. and for the business to be able to plan as well. Because one of those we'd actually just promoted into a certain role, and a couple of weeks later they decided to go. So for me, that at that point it would have been the right time to say, actually, I'm not aligned to the journey here, and we could have that conversation rather than getting a letter while I'm on holiday, because that kind of ruined the holiday for me as well.
Absolutely.
I think the positive spin on it is, I think this business has flexed and gone in directions that weren't expected because of interest and because of people's desires. And there are definitely parts of the kind of the tech that we explore because people have a curiosity and an interest in it. And so these conversations again create that, like, I really want to be more challenged in doing this kind of work. We're kind of like, well, you're important to us, and if this is something that you're passionate about, how do we create that space and those kind of projects? We've kind of looked at toying with robotics and done some invested some real time and seeing if we can develop some new business in that space, because we've got a real interest in our team in robotics. And so it's
so by creating that opportunity to really understand your people and what it is that they want and what they're interested in, you're saying that's led to innovative ideas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we're looking at building a product at the moment which is born out of our people, that they have the ideas. Yes, we can be the capital conduit for that, but, without that passion, those ideas, innovation doesn't come.
Yeah.
And innovation is one of those cliche words that people bandy around, but it really comes from depth of knowledge in a certain area, to quote one of our panelists at Latency.
Yeah.
And I really, truly believe that. So you're not going to solve the problems. There's no easy problems to solve today. People are looking around for easy problems to solve. There's none. You've got to really know what you're talking about. You've got to really understand an area to be able to solve a problem.
Okay. What's really cool listening to what you guys said there about hearing your people and drawing from their input to create a lot of innovation. In episode 3, we talked to Michelle Chin, who's the people and culture leader at the RGT, and she said how their cultural approach of listening to their people, understanding what every individual wants and needs and are interested in, and they've got 230 people in the organisation, but doing that has meant that they were able to draw on the wisdom of a lot of the technical operators and the frontline people that informs their strategy. And they believe that that's made a big difference in how they design and execute strategy for the business now. So it's a cool correlation there. For other owners out there who own small and medium businesses or business leaders who are leading in those businesses, do you guys have any tips or thoughts that you'd like to share about, building a resilient business?
Yeah, so for owners, well, firstly, don't do it. No, I think for owners, it's really about spending the time around stuff that you don't think's important that actually is. So articulating what your actual vision is, because no one sits down and they write their vision straight away. So both internal and external. So you've got to think, well, what do I want out of this? And the best thing to do is write it down. Early doors, write it down, and that can change. It's fine, but go and revisit it. And also, what are you actually trying to achieve with your business? So your kind of more external vision. So with your stakeholders, so they could be your customers, partners, whatever. So where are you going? Write that down early doors. And then in terms of ownership, make sure that you have an aligned vision, both internal and external, and that people have skin in the game. That's all I can offer.
Thank you. Tania?
I think from a leadership, I am such a fan. I don't think I can ever go back to kind of corporate world. I came to Mechanical Rock as a bit of a corporate refugee, and I'm so grateful for the experience to do general management in a small company as opposed to in a big IT department somewhere. And I think my kind of message out is small to medium-sized businesses is where it's at from a leadership perspective, because you're so close to being effective. Like, there's very little waste time and admin in my job. The time I spend in leadership is with clients and with people. It is not doing forms. It is not filling out objectives and KPIs. It is really at the forefront of the business. And then what can there be of a better ground for learning and getting great at the craft of leadership than doing that? So I think that we should have more people should leave those kind of cushy leadership jobs and actually put their money where their mouth is and actually drive the economy, which is the economy in WA is a small business economy. It's not these big corporates that pay the flashy salaries. I don't know a single one of my peers who are in those roles who are happy. Those jobs are hard. They do them because they finance their life. And look, I'm all for financing my life, but you can still do that and have in a small business and really kind of get a reward out of it. Like there's a real tangible skill and joy of actually just being close to being effective. Like I can see the benefits of my work, and I get the feedback really fast when I mess it up. What a great learning opportunity. Then when you're in a 6-month budget cycle and it's another reorg, so nothing's going to happen here for another 2 months, and like it's a cop out. Don't top out. Work for a small business.
Get into an SME. Roll your sleeves up.
SME. Yeah, and then and with that will come opportunities. That if you get into an SME that you really, really believe in, and if things work out, and there's an opportunity to kind of buy into that business, then you're setting yourself up.
Put your skin in the game.
Absolutely. And I hope that that's going to be something that Mechanical Rock will one day open up. And I think it's a part of his vision is to create that opportunity for the people that care about the business the most, which is the employees who really get it, to kind of put some of that skin in the game. And that won't be easy for people, but if I'm going to do that, I'm only going to do that if I know I'm doing it with other people that care just as much as me, that can kind of give blood, sweat and tears for this place, because like you give blood, sweat and tears for your family. Like, why wouldn't you do it in your work? You're there all the time. And who just give a shit. That's it.
Amazing.
That's my plug.
Thank you. I'm a massive fan of you guys as humans and as a company, and feel privileged that I was able to have this chat and just catch up. All things make rock. Thank you for making time. Hoping we can rustle up plenty of support for you as a business, but also for next Latency conference. Keep doing what you're doing. Love you guys.
Latency
it's been really awesome.
Represent.
Latency 2025. Get involved.
Thank you, Dave.
Come and attend.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. See ya.
Thank you for having us. Cheers.